Okay, good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. I think we are ready to get started. Thanks for your patience there. My name is Caitlin Edwards, and I'm the Community Events Manager here at Linux Professional Institute. Thanks for joining us at today's webinar. This is the fourth webinar of the board election series. This webinar will address how members of LPI will be able to make an informed choice when they vote for their organization's board of directors. For the first time, Linux Professional Institute is opening community nominations for its board of directors to be voted on by LPI members in the spring of 2021. Throughout this webinar, you'll learn about who can vote, how the candidates get on the ballot, how to find out more about the candidates, how to vote, how the votes are counted, how and where the final vote will be announced. For those of you new to Linux Professional Institute, our mission is to promote the use of open source by supporting the people who work within it. LPI is the global certification standard and career support organization for open source professionals. With more than 200,000 certification holders, we are the world's first and largest vendor-neutral Linux and open source certification body. We have certified professionals in over 180 countries, deliver exams in multiple languages, and have hundreds of training partners. During the webinar, we are encouraging questions. Feel free to ask questions using the Q&A or the chat box that you'll find at the bottom of your screen. Submitting questions publicly or privately. I will keep track throughout the webinar and facilitate with Evan here. This webinar will be recorded and we'll share the slides and recording later this week. Today's webinar will be led by Evan Leibovitch, LPI's Director of Community Engagement. So at this time, Evan, please take it away.
Thanks a lot, Caitlin, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night to wherever you are. Thank you for joining us on this fourth presentation about the LPI board election process. So just a bit about me. I'm on the LPI Governance Committee. I am the co-author of LPI's original bylaws 20 years ago, as well as the new revisions that have allowed for elections. And I've been on a bunch of other boards and bylaws. So I've got a bit of a knee-deep background into the governance issues and how this election is working. So previously in this series, the first presentation, which is available on our website and our channel, talks about the entire election process and as a whole, why we did it. The second one had to do with how to join our nomination committee, which is right now in full force, and as we speak, deliberating to try and come up with some good quality director candidates for you to vote for. The third one is how to run for election. And so the last one was aimed at people that were interested in being directors. This particular presentation is directed at those people who actually are going to do the voting and do the actual selection from amongst the people that run. So why would you want to vote? Well, voting is participation in the organization from our entire community. It's meant to have a say in where LPI is going, and it's also part of LPI's transition from being a purely certification body to one that's a professional association that looks out for our community, that gets involved and engaged in assisting with professional development, helping people choose open source as a career, and various other initiatives that we're undertaking. So this is part of our transition. So we're not just an organization that publishes exams. We're in fact using the exams to help us build a community that will be a professional association, much like a medical or engineering society or a bar association or something like that. We want to make open source professionals into something that is respected by the public, much like other professions, and having a professional association is an important part of that. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, voting process and democratic process is part of making LPI accountable and transparent to its membership. You'll get a chance to see who's going to be on our board, a chance to choose the people that you want to be there. And it's our way of opening up to our community and being more accountable to you. Very quickly, this is actually the same slide that was used last time of why run for the board. And it basically says the board is meeting from time to time. It's going to make the big decisions for LPI, the big moves, major initiatives, programs, making sure we spend our money safely and prudently, and gets involved with the real high level direction of LPI. So this is why this is important for you to vote for the organization that is representing you in making sure LPI is responsive to you and the community as a voter. And so who can vote? The bylaws limit the voting for the board to LPI members. LPI membership was established a couple of years ago as a program to literally bring our community into our program, into making democratic choices about who's on the board. And so we created the membership program. And one of the key components, one of the key benefits of being a member is being able to vote and have a say in the direction of LPI. And again, the point behind this is to have LPI as a professional organization that is in the hands of the professionals. And so what that means is to be an LPI member, you can go to the website that's there, lpi.org/member, which essentially tells you that you need to be LPI certified. And so that can be in any of our certifications right now, the LPIC-1 or 2 or 3. Also, the BSD certification or our DevOps certification, any of those would allow you to be eligible for membership. But this is not simply about technical skills, because to be a member, you would also need to sign on to our code of conduct. Anyone who is an LPI, has an active LPI certification, and is willing to sign our code of conduct is immediately able to become a member. Somebody with an inactive LPI certification who still wants to be a member, there actually is a process for you to do that and to regain the status of your certification and to become a member at the same time. So I invite anybody who is not a member of LPI, please do so. Go to that website and please join up, be a part of this democratic process. And so the aim of this is simply to put the professional organization in the hands of the professionals. Again, this is very similar to how a bar association works or an engineering society and so on. In any professional organizations like this, it's actually the professionals who vote on the board, on the direction of the organization. And this is the path that LPI is taking. So on the ballot, when it comes time to vote, there's going to be two different sets of, two different choices you're going to be making. There's going to be two slates of candidates, and they're going to be made in different ways. One of them is selected by the nomination committee. So there'll be a list of candidates who've been vetted by the nomination committee on various criteria, what LPI needs from our board, whether it's treasury skills, whether it's international diversity, whether it's any one of a number of criteria. The nomination committee is, as we speak, accepting and going through applications for people who want to be candidates. They're going to be going through this, vetting the list, and producing a list of candidates. And so that's going to be one set. But LPI is not limiting it that way. Any member who wants to be on the ballot, even if you don't want to go through the nomination committee, any member who can get the endorsement of 20 other members, 20 members total, so 19 including themselves. Any LPI member who can get the endorsement of 19 other members can be put on the ballot without any vetting by the nomination committee. And so when it comes time to vote, every voter, every member will get a list, will get two separate lists of people to choose from. So in the case of the nomination committee list, it will probably be something like, please choose 6 people from this list of 12. And the second list will be, please choose these 1 or 2 people from the list of how many people there are that can get 20 endorsements. We don't know this ahead of time because we're not vetting them. Pardon me. And so on your ballot, you're going to get 2 separate lists of people to vote for, and this is why it's that way. So the voting process is, if you're a member of LPI that's registered up until the date where we start the campaign, you will receive credentials. That is, you'll get access to all the information, and you'll get a ballot, an electronic ballot. We will have the candidate bios and their policies. Anything they want to tell you about why to vote for them will be up on the website for you to see. We will be running a Q&A session, so any member will be able to ask the candidates questions about either clarifications of what they've posted or asking a general question to all candidates about what do you think about this or that particular issue. If demand exists and is of interest to the members, we will hold live webinars where we will invite the candidates to be able to answer in real time questions from our members. And at the end of this all, you'll be voting using an online system, an open source system called Zeus that we have vetted, and we're very happy with the security of it. So you'll be getting credentials with which to vote. You'll get a receipt and confirmation for your vote if ever we need to do recounts or anything like that. It's a very secure system, and it is, of course, open source. And for the timeline of all this, so the campaign starts, that is, we will know who all our candidates are on March 15th. So that will be both lists of candidates we will have been able to put together. And so those ballots will be assembled, and the campaign will start on March 15th, at which time all our members should be getting their voting credentials, as well as URLs on how to access the bios and the other information. Voting is up to May 20th, and which is the date of our annual general meeting. And so the ballots will be counted in real time at the AGM, and we will, our elections officer, Kenny Armstrong, will count and announce to our membership who has won the various board seats open. And that is about it. The process for voting is a lot simpler than the process for running for being a candidate. And we want to make it simple, but we also want to make sure that you have an informed choice when you go to vote. It's important to us, it's important to you as a part of the LPI community to make sure that we're as responsive as we can be. And so by design, the voting process is as simple as we can make it. It's a little bit different from what you might be used to, because we're going to have the 2 separate slates of candidates from which to choose. But this makes sure that we're not only in keeping with national law about nonprofits, but also making sure that by having virtual meetings, we're not disenfranchising people compared to what would be done at an in-person board AGM, which is what often would happen. So with that having been said, that's it for this little pile of information. So Caitlin, are there any questions?
Thanks a lot, Evan. We don't have any questions. If people do have questions, don't be shy. Feel free to write them in the chat box here or the Q&A. Thanks, Evan. That was not a lot of information, but a lot of information. So that was really useful for sure.
Thanks, Caitlin. And so there may be a part 5 to this series, so if we need to send out details, obviously the next webinar will be mainly targeted at members of LPI. And so if that's needed, we'll be sending voting details possibly. If our membership asks for it, we will do another webinar, but effectively it will only be putting a few specific details on things I've talked about today, like specific URLs and things like that. Essentially everything that needs to be known about the voting, we've just gone over in this session. So that's it.
Thanks, Evan.
And if you have any questions, please use that email, governance@lpi.org. And to know more about our process, please go to that website, lpi.org/electionsboarddirectors, which is where we have publicly all the information about the voting process.
Wonderful. Thanks for walking us through that process again. And thanks for everyone for joining us. Please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Evan, and we'll get your questions answered if any of them do come up as well. Again, I'll be sending around the presentation slides and the recording and the contact information over by early next week. So thanks for participating, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.